In this video, I'm gonna give you 7 companies that you should take a look at first so your credit won't get pulled unless you move forward with the application. What I'm talking about here are credit cards that have a pre-qualification or pre-approval offer that allows you to check whether or not you qualify. No one wants a hard inquiry for no reason. While a pre-approval does not guarantee that you will get approved, it does help increase your odds. So we are going to be going over which company these are, which cards that they offer, and which credit bureaus that they pull from if you decide to move forward with the application. First on the list will be American Express. Not too long ago, American Express rolled out a new Apply with Confidence feature that allows you to know whether or not you get approved for a specific card with no impact on your credit score. Now, before you actually apply for their cards, if you decide to move forward with the application, then your credit would be pulled. Typically, American Express, they check your Experian credit report. This might change depending on your geographic location and whether or not they pull more than one. But there is a thing where if you were to get approved through American Express once before, if you were to apply for a second card through them, this would most likely be a soft pull rather than a hard inquiry. In some rare instances, you may incur a secondary hard pull, but these are rare based on current data points. One thing I want to make note of is that if you are interested in applying for American Express because they have a high welcome offer, just keep in mind that these are generally once in a lifetime. So it would be in your best interest to find the best welcome offer before moving forward. Also keep in mind that American Express is pretty notorious for high annual fees on specific cards, especially for the ones that are catered towards travelers. So run those numbers to see whether or not you can use those credits. If not, this will help determine whether or not it is a keeper card for the second year. So let's move on to our next company, which will be Chase. I'm a huge fan of Chase, and rightfully so. I honestly think they have some of the best credit cards in the space right now. Plus, their ecosystem is friendly whether you are a beginner or an advanced user. They do have a link where you can check pre-approved offers that will not impact your credit score. Sometimes this link does go down, so depending on when you watch this video, just make sure you do a quick Google search or check the links down in the description. It is generally a consensus that they mainly pull from Experian, but depending on where you live in the US, you may also get a pull from TransUnion or Equifax alongside Experian. So in my personal experience, I live in California, and every time I apply for a Chase credit card, I typically only get pulled from Experian. Now, there is a catch on which credit cards that you can get pre-approved for. So currently you can check for the Sapphire Reserve, Sapphire Preferred, Freedom Unlimited, Freedom Flex, and a Slate Edge card. Honestly, all of these are solid options depending on what you're looking for. With the Slate Edge, this is their card that typically offers a low APR on purchases and balance transfers. So if you want to save some money on interest, then this would be the card for you. The next two, which will be the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited, are great entry-level cards that are pretty much forever credit cards. I usually have these in my daily rotation as well in my Apple Wallet. With the Freedom Flex, you typically earn a bonus and you get a 5% cash back up to $1,500 on rotating categories every single quarter. This card does require a little bit of planning, and you have to activate these categories before you can use it to maximize its rewards. Nonetheless, you get 5% on travel purchased through the Chase Travel Portal, 3% on dining, and 3% on drugstore purchases, plus 1% everywhere else. The Freedom Unlimited is very similar to the Flex, where the main difference is that rather than rotating categories, you earn a flat 1.5% back on everything, plus the same percentages back as the Freedom Flex. Now, when it comes to travel cards, I personally am a big fan of the Chase Sapphire Preferred, since you can usually get a pretty solid welcome bonus, plus you get 3x on dining and 2x on travel. There is an annual fee of $95, but when used properly, you can usually offset this. As for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, this one is definitely for someone who's a little bit more experienced with credit cards and travels quite often. You usually can get a similar sign-up bonus to the Sapphire Preferred, but you get 3x on dining and travel and a $300 travel credit yearly. One of the things that is special about this card is that you get airport lounge access, meaning that you get access to the new Chase Sapphire lounges and Priority Pass Select lounges. So depending on how often you travel and how much you value lounge access, this card could be worth it for you. Next up, we have CapitalOne. Like the other two companies, CapitalOne is one of the major players in the credit card space. However, CapitalOne is a little bit more friendly for those with fair to good credit. This means that if your credit score is in the 500s or even in the 600s, you have better odds of approval rather than needing excellent credit like the other two. Most credit card issuers generally want you to have credit scores above 680, sometimes even 740. But CapitalOne is one of those issuers where there are many data points that show people with fair to good credit get approved for their cards. Now with CapitalOne, there are 2 specific links where you can get pre-approved offers. The first link will allow you to see pre-approval offers on most of their credit cards. So this includes the Quicksilver Rewards, Savior One Rewards, Venture Rewards, Venture One Rewards, Platinum MasterCard, Quicksilver One Rewards, Quicksilver Secure Rewards, and the Platinum Secure Card. There's also a separate link specifically for the Venture X card. This is their premium travel credit card, which I personally think is probably one of the best travel credit cards right now based on value. With this card, there's typically a sign-up bonus whenever you apply. Currently, you can still get 75,000 bonus miles whenever you spend $4,000 on purchases within the first 3 months. So for a dollar value, that's worth around $750. Some of the benefits that you get with this card include an annual $300 CapitalOne travel credit and a 10,000 mile anniversary bonus. If you value those annual benefits, it's gonna be worth $400. This card does have an annual fee of $395, so essentially you are getting paid $5 just to hold onto this card. Of course, this is if you maximize the credits and the bonus. Depending on how you use your miles, you can gain even more value. With this card, you also get access to CapitalOne lounges for you and 2 guests, which I think is a better deal than the MX lounges since the cardholder can't bring any extra guests unless they have to pay extra. You also get access to priority pass lounges. This is a solid choice for a travel credit card. One thing to note about CapitalOne is that whenever you apply for their credit cards, they will typically pull from all 3 major credit bureaus. So just make sure that your credit at all 3 bureaus are in good standing before you apply. Next up, we have Bank of America. With Bank of America, whenever you plug in your info, that's only when you can see which cards that they recommend for you to apply for. So you really won't know which cards are available until you plug in your info. For example, whenever I plugged in my info, since I'm already a Bank of America member, I was offered the unlimited cash rewards card, the travel rewards card, and the Bank of America credit card. So I imagine everyone who plugs in their info will get something a little bit different. Personally, I don't like Bank of America for their credit cards, just due to the fact that I am a person who likes to transfer points and try to maximize my points and miles for travel. Bank of America tends to focus a little bit more on cash back, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It really just depends on the type of credit card user you are, since they do have some pretty solid options as well. So when it comes to which credit bureau Bank of America pulls from, they tend to heavily favor Experian, but this can also vary depending on where you live. The second most popular one that I've seen would be TransUnion. Next up, we have Citibank. I think they have some of the most underrated credit cards out there since I feel like a lot of people really don't talk about them as much. Unfortunately, when I went through their pre-screening application page, I didn't get pre-qualified for any offers available. So your mileage may vary depending on your credit profile, hard inquiries, and other factors. When it comes to which credit bureau that they pull from, they tend to favor Experian. Now let's move on to our next company, which will be Marcus by Goldman Sachs. They have a card called the GM Rewards MasterCard, which is a co-branded card tied to GM vehicles. But this does not mean that you can only use them at GM dealerships. You can actually use it at any retailer where MasterCard is accepted. With this card, you can get a 15,000 bonus points whenever you spend $1,000 within the first 3 months. Plus, you get 7x points on purchases with GM and 4x on purchases elsewhere. There's also an introductory APR and there is no annual fee. With this card, whenever you move forward with the application, your TransUnion credit will be pulled. This can be pretty handy, especially if you are trying to limit inquiries from the other credit bureaus. Now let's move on to our next company, which will be Discover. Discover is one of those companies where a lot of people start their credit journey. They have plenty of great cards for those who are new to credit or looking to rebuild credit. So when it comes to the pre-approval process, if you decide to move forward with the application, they tend to pull from Equifax more. But it is still possible that they may pull from Experian and TransUnion, so I would definitely try to have my Equifax credit in line first prior to applying. When it comes to the cards, they tend to have better deals when it comes to cashback. The one that they're probably most famous for is the Discover It cashback card, where you earn 5% cashback on rotating categories each quarter. This is somewhat similar to the Chase Freedom Flex card, plus you earn 1% back on all the purchases. What I think makes Discover pretty unique is that since I can remember, for the first year, they will give you an unlimited dollar-for-dollar match for all of your cash back that you earned within the first year automatically. You may also find a low intro APR on their cards as well, which is often a nice perk. But since Discover is geared a little bit more towards beginners, I wouldn't recommend doing this since you can end up wrecking yourself much later on. So I would recommend using these cards to learn more about credit, then move on to other companies where they have better deals. So earlier I mentioned how pre-qualifying can give you a leg up when applying for credit cards. But if you have bad credit, you most likely won't get approved for any credit cards. So watch these videos over here where I show you how to build and repair your credit.